Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with a review of Hocus Pocus 2. So if you did not watch my channel update video, I am still not at home, do not have access to my normal recording software, so I don't know what this audio is going to be to. I want to put it to something, but I won't be able to use footage from the movie. I might do like a trailer or something. Let's be real, even if I did use footage from the movie, I'd probably get copyright struck by Disney so fast. So if you're new to this channel, typically when I do reviews like these, I do a general review and then I will have a spoiler section later. So I hope you will stick around. I was a fairly big fan of the original movie. I didn't quite know what to think about this, because you know how the companies are these days. They're all making sequels and remakes, and yeah, like I'm doing recaps and reviews of like the Resident Evil Netflix series, so, you know, I know how bad things can get. That said, I didn't hate this movie. I don't think it's as good as the original, but like that was going to be a hard thing to top. I didn't really like the musical numbers in this. I don't want to talk too much about the detail. I want to save that for the spoiler section because it's just easier sometimes anyway. I love the intro sequence for this movie. I thought the protagonist characters were kind of boring. Like, they're not necessarily bad, but they don't do anything with them. Like, if you asked me to name the personality traits of these three girls, I couldn't do it, because they don't really have any. And I can't tell you anything really about their personal lives or situations. They don't tell much of a cohesive story with these girls, because it becomes clear that there's kind of like a rift between them very early on, but not enough light is shined on it. It's barely relevant. The witches, the Sanderson sisters, they're the ones that really steal the show here. And I still found them pretty enjoyable and funny. And there are some callbacks to the original movie. I know this review is very rambly. I hope it'll be more coherent when I get to the spoiler section. I don't want to make this too long because I don't have anything good to put to it. So, yeah. I don't think it's a bad movie. I actually got kind of... I didn't cry, but I did get emotional during the ending. There were some parts that I genuinely found funny. So, I would definitely say check it out. Everyone seems to be pretty torn on it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people just are kind of in the middle. So it's pretty much going to be different for everyone. So that's kind of a basic review. I don't know how interesting that was, but I enjoy talking about the spoilers more. So let's get to the spoiler section. And I'm reading the recap off Wikipedia to try and not forget anything, even though I just finished watching the movie last night. So hopefully they don't omit anything that I want to talk about. I will say right off, like I said, I love the intro sequence. The three actresses they had playing the young Sanderson sisters were really good. They copied their mannerisms perfectly. They were enjoyable to watch. I'm really sad we didn't see more of them. I also thought that the mother witch was an interesting character, and I wish we got to see more of her as well. Like, she just gives this spell book to these little girls and is like, okay, bye. And like, I genuinely do want to know more about how the sisters survived on their own in the woods. I mean, you can't help but root for them at this part in the movie because, you know, trying to force Winifred into marriage and banishing her because she doesn't fit in for the time, trying to take her sisters away, the mean reverend. I don't know about them just standing there while they set the building on fire, though. But it's a really great, really strong opening scene. But then we shift to the modern day, where we have our characters, Becca and Izzy, who apparently have some sort of witchcraft ritual thing that they do every year for Becca's 16th birthday. And they have a former friend who they have an awkward thing with, whose name is Cassie, and she's like the mayor's daughter. And there's a idiot football player that Cassie is dating. I actually thought the idiot football player was a pretty entertaining character, and I think that the movie would have probably been better if he'd been a more active participant really, if any of these protagonists had been more active participants, I feel like they're basically just there so that we have an excuse for the movie to happen. Like, if they could find an excuse to just get rid of these teenagers, they probably would. But they need them there because there needs to be like I don't want to say antagonist, but I guess there needs to be a protagonist. But yeah, I was having early on the hardest time even remembering what the main girls' names were, Becca and Izzy, because they didn't really like say it. And I was like, thank goodness for the mayor guy, because he actually like says their name. And it's like, if it weren't for you, man, I would not know who these girls even are. The mayor is kind of a weird character. I don't hate him. He seems like a nice enough guy. Introduced a little weird. The girls get in trouble at school because like the dumb boyfriend guy like is not he's not like being knowingly insulting, but he like insults the witchcraft thing, and so Becca scares him and they get sent to the principal's office. I really think that's an overreaction. I did like the teacher dressed as the banana though, and Glenn the vampire. That's pretty great. But yeah, we get this weird teenage stuff that is not done super well. So the girls go to a magic shop, which is apparently where the Sandersons we used to be the Sandersons cottage. The book is there and like strapped down to a ridiculous degree. And we got this guy Gilbert who runs the shop, and he's telling everyone the story of the Sanderson sisters. And he gives them a black flame candle. And you could probably already see where this is going. So they go to the forest, they do their ritual, they light the candle, and they bring the witches back. Of course. And they show up and they immediately start singing. I did not hate this musical number, even if it was a bit random. I can't say I remember it very well, though, either. The girls managed to convince the witches they're 40 somehow. Like, they could have said they were like 20-something. I don't know why they said 40. And they have this kind of really random thing where they trick the sisters into going to a Walgreens because, you know, they're trying to convince them that the health and beauty section is like a modern witch thing filled with like de-aging stuff that contains the souls of children. I didn't really care for the scene with the makeup products where they're eating them, but I did like just like the stuff with the girls failing repeatedly to kind of escape and thwart the sisters. And the scene where they leave the Walgreens with the Swiftjet and the Roombas. That was pretty funny. I love the Roombas. The Roombas are the best characters in the movie. I really wish that the movie had ended with the Roombas just following the main characters. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So the two random teen girls that no one really cares about manage to escape the witches. They go to try and get the spell book, and we learn that Gilbert actually engineered the whole thing because he's a super big fan of the Sanderson sisters and feels they were just misunderstood. And he apparently witnessed the events, the ending events of the previous movie, the big fight in the graveyard. And it's like to an extent I can understand why you think they were just misunderstood. Like if you saw the past sequence, which he didn't, so I don't know how he would think that they're just misunderstood. Like all you saw is them like trying to murder a bunch of people in a graveyard. But he's like, no, I need to bring them back. And like, I don't mind the idea of a fan engineering it, but I think it could have been done better, because you got fans that are way more obsessed than this guy who don't care if they're evil or not, that just think they're interesting, like, oh, I want to meet the Sanderson sisters type of deal. Instead, they just have him be very misguided. So I don't know that was the best thing. But so there was this spell introduced in the beginning called like Magica Maxima, which is supposed to be a really powerful spell that makes a witch all powerful. And the mother witch lady had made the sisters promise they'd never do it. The book doesn't like people doing it. We don't really learn about it, but Winifred decides she's going to do it because she realizes that the mayor, Cassie's father, is a descendant of the reverend who kind of ruined her life when she was a kid, trying to force her into marriage and all that. I say kid, more like 16. It's the Salem times. So, oh, also, random aside, but apparently that Walgreens is where they used to execute witches. Like, that's the same ground where they used to execute witches. You know, you don't see that on the advertisements for Walgreens. But anyway, So the girls end up getting trapped. Gilbert is forced by the witches to go get ingredients for that potion that they want to do. And yeah, so they're trying to find the mayor, and they're not really having much luck. It's hard doing this recap because Wikipedia only really covers the big story plot points. I will say I feel really bad for the mayor who just wants to get his candy apple and just keeps failing, and he does not get his candy apple at the end of the movie. There's no real end to that, and it's actually very sad. But the girls manage to escape, and they try to go warn the mayor, and they tell him about the party to make him go home. I mean, I guess that's better than being like, witches are after you, because, no one would believe that. Gilbert digs up Billy from the first movie, who I believe is played by the same guy. And poor Billy has apparently actually been technically awake. Like he hasn't passed on. He was sleeping, but he's still there in his body, apparently because of Winifred. And he actually claims he never really dated Winifred. They shared one kiss. And yeah, she just decided they were a couple. But the return of Billy, I don't hate that they brought Billy back, but him and Gilbert just have a bunch of really random scenes together where they're trying to gather these ingredients, because if Gilbert doesn't gather the ingredients, he's going to be killed. And he lies to Billy and pretends it's a spell to stop Winifred when it's actually, not. We get another weird musical number. I really didn't like this one. I think the version of the song they do during the end credits is better. So, yeah. But they make a mob go search for the mayor, but it takes too long, so they quickly grow bored of it. And there's no real point to this scene, at all. The Roombas continue to be awesome, though. They've become sentient, and they basically follow the witches around like a couple of dogs. I'm not really sure how that happened. But yeah, so they head to the big mansion that looks like Allison's house from the first film, where Cassie lives. Still no real development happening between these main characters. They manage to trap the witches in a salt circle. The dad is just mad about his candy apple and just goes inside and doesn't do anything about the weird ladies in his garage. We finally get a brief moment where the teenagers actually interact, and we learn that the idiot football player, who is here for one scene now, was not aware he was bullying the girls, because he's dumb. And the girls fell apart mostly because of this, because she kept inviting them to hang out, but they didn't want to hang out with him and his friends too, because, they're not nice. And, no one cares about these girls at this point. It's very unfortunate. But there's actually this is where I think there's some pretty good moments. So the Chekhov's Roombas return and eat the salt surrounding the witches. And this is sadly their last appearance in the film, but because of the Roombas, the witches are able to escape. And while the teens are having their completely irrelevant conversation, Winifred just zooms by and grabs Cassie. It happens out of nowhere, and it's actually pretty surprising. You kind of know something like that's going to happen, but it's so fast compared to this is not the most actiony movie, but it happens really fast. So they all head to the forest where these sisters are trying to do their spell. And one complaint I've heard other people say about the movie is that the witches are not portrayed as threatening in this, which there is some truth to that. They are a bit smarter. They forego focusing on Becca and Izzy to try and do their potion thingy, which is smart of them. But I will say that there's a scene here because Winifred needs the blood of her enemy, which she decides to use Cassie's blood because Cassie has Trask's blood, that being the mayor, and the mayor looks like the Reverend, so he's like a descendant of his. So she cuts Cassie, she whips her fingernail across this girl's neck to get her blood. It's actually a pretty violent-y type scene for how non-violent this movie has been. And they're interrupted from doing the ritual because apparently Becca is a witch. That is just a thing. It is not explained. There is no plot relevance to it. again, we know nothing about this girl's backstory. We don't really know how witchcraft works in this, because the other girls are later able to help her do a protective spell, but she knows magic, so she gets Izzy to go help Cassie, and then she decides to take on Winifred, because, yeah, you've had magic for 2 seconds. I'm sure you'll be able to beat this woman who's been doing witchcraft for 300 some years. So she loses miserably. But they manage to make a run for it after convincing the book to betray Winifred. And this is another thing some people complain about, because, it's like, oh, this is a Satan book, bound in human skin. And, I can't resist making the comment that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. The book is surprisingly more emotive in this movie. It sweats, it cries, it's oddly emotional. I don't hate it, though. So, the book shows them the warning that comes with the spell that the witches want to cast, which basically is, you'll have to sacrifice what's most important to you, which they realize for Winifred would be her sisters. The witches manage to get the book back, however, and complete the spell before the protagonists, in quotations, can stop them. And, Sarah gets a cool moment where she briefly stands up for herself at some point during this whole confrontation, but mostly Winifred is all powerful now and she's thrilled, but then suddenly Mary and Sarah start to kind of fade away into sparkly light. What exactly is happening to them, where they're going, is very unclear, and Winifred is actually very upset by this, and when she learns that they were the price of her spell, she's just absolutely heartbroken, because it's like, what's the point of having this magic if they're not with me? And, I'll tell you, it was an emotional scene. I didn't cry, but I was genuinely sad for her, because she felt, legitimately sad. And the book is able to help the protagonists do a spell of reunification, which, rather than bring the other two back, sends Winifred to where they are, so she also disappears in sparkly light. It feels like this is supposed to be them actually dying, maybe going to heaven or something. I don't know. They killed a lot of people. They killed kids. Some people view this as a redemption and don't like it. I don't know that it was a redemption. It was just more like even evil has loved ones kind of thing. So we don't really know. If they went into heaven, I bet Thackeray would be mad. But yeah, so that happens. Apparently, Winifred actually dying undoes all her spells, so Billy is also able to disappear in sparkly light, which this obviously kind of contradicts the first movie, where Binks was able to pass on when Winifred disappeared. So Billy probably should have followed, but they just wanted to bring him back. So as the girls walk off, they decide to form their own coven. We see a bird identical to the mother witch one from the beginning. And yeah, we are robbed of a scene of the Roombas following the girls as they walk into the distance. I think that would have been the perfect ending, and maybe use their magic to give the mayor a candy apple, because, he's earned that. But yeah, so that's the movie. This is already 18 minutes long, and I still don't know what I'm going to put this to, so... yeah, I didn't hate it. I got emotional at times. There's apparently a post-credits scene which didn't show up on mine, where the black cat in the shop that is not Binks, jumps next to another black candle, and some people think this is hinting at a Hocus Pocus 3. But with that ending, I don't know how a Hocus Pocus 3 would work, unless they do a backstory type of deal. Because it felt like this was the end for the witches. I don't know that you could actually bring them back, as villains. But, so, yeah. What did you guys think of this movie? Was it as good as the original? Do you even like the original? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!